Hello. Hi, Fit&Well. So my name's Emily Leeming. I'm a dietitian for Yakult. And I'm here to talk to you about healthy snacking and a little bit about Yakult as well. So I guess we'll just wait a little bit to see who else is going to join us. Hi, hello. Send me a wave or an emoji so I know that you're here. Before we get started, I just want to say that, let me just move you across a bit. Yes, okay. So we're going to be uploading the talk to YouTube and also it's going to be saved onto IGTV as well. So if you don't have time to catch up later, don't worry, you can just pop back on. Today we're going to do a quick brief overview of healthy snacking. I'm going to be talking about some of my top tips, advice, any questions you have, drop them in the comments and very happy to answer them as we go. So maybe we'll just wait a few moments more as before we jump in. Hi everyone, I can see people joining. Hello, hello. Okay. Right, let's go. So, we're talking about snacking today. I'm Emily Leeming, I'm a dietitian for Yakult. And if we're going to go straight for it, we're talking about snacks, which is about 20% of your energy intake throughout the day. So it's a really great way to focus on can we be making some changes here to really improve your nutrition, make sure that you're getting the energy boost that you need, and really talking through a few things or a few questions that you might have around snacking. So because it's that 20% of our food intake, one really good example of why this can be beneficial for us is that they did this research study showing that they swapped typical snack items for almonds, and they found that participants improved their blood circulation and also their cholesterol levels through this intervention. So small things like that we can do throughout the day can actually have a really big effect on our day-to-day nutrition and health. Please ask any questions below, really just drop them in. I'm going to do a Q&A at the end. So snacking really is okay. I think a lot of people, like to hate down on snacking. Really, it can be really beneficial. It's really the times when it might not be so great for your health is in the evening, late at night, so after dinner. So that's times when it might not be so great for your metabolic health, and there's research to show that actually when you have that in tandem with eating dinner really late, that's when it actually might be a bit of a problem. So that's just something to stay aware of. But otherwise, it's a really great way, and especially when you're feeling really hungry, really great to be able to grab something that's just going to give you a bit of energy boost. So what influences snacking? I think this is really important to discuss because it's not just about the nutrients that we're choosing or the choices that we're making. I really think we need to talk about the context that we're eating snacks in. So if we think about something that we talk about, which is called the need states wheel, or we talk about it in terms of choice architecture. And when I talk through this next bit, I really want you to think about which bits do you feel like applies to you, because that can really help to untease, the reasoning and the rationale behind why maybe we're picking specific snacks over other specific snacks. So this choice states, need states wheel is really built around various layers. So we talk about location, so are you out and about? Are you not able to have a meal, for example, because you're on a long drive and therefore you have something that's kind of quick and ready? Is it routine? Is it boredom? Are there kind of social occasions, for example? So pre-pandemic, I might be going to the bar to have a snack, but perhaps in pandemic times, it's sharing some snacks in front of the TV with family. So I'd really like you to think about kind of what's the context for you in terms of choosing snacks. And then within that, we talk about reasons why we choose snacks. So they did this great survey of UK and British people, and they asked them, what are the reasons behind why you're choosing snacks? And they gave them a set number of options to select. So they said, are you snacking for fuel? Is it for kind of survival? Are you sharing with friends and family, so you're getting that kind of emotional enrichment from it? Is it a way of exploring new foods and trying new things? Or is it to indulge? And what they found was that most people snacked either as an indulgence, so as a treat for pure enjoyment, or for that kind of fuel survival. So really, they said, to satisfy hunger pangs and as an energy boost to keep you going. So just to kind of give you some context around where everyone else is sitting, so I hope you don't feel like, maybe you're the only one who's doing a certain thing or a certain way, because we are definitely all in this together. So what is interesting from this survey is that they found that those who were choosing healthier snacks tended to be motivated more by sharing and exploring new foods. So I think maybe this is something that can be really great to keep in mind, in that, if you're trying to bring new foods into your diet, it can be really great to maybe bring someone else in there, make it more fun, make it more of an occasion. So in terms of nutrition, I've got a few top tips that I want to share with you. And I guess the first thing is probably honour your hunger. I think we have this really big fear of, should we be having anything at all? And we're really ignoring any of our hunger signals. And quite often I see that people will just refuse to have anything until they get to that real, absolutely about to pounce on someone, punch them, being like, right, I'm so hungry, and just completely away with the fairies in terms of hunger. So what we want to be doing is perhaps taking a step back, being in tune with our body, and maybe thinking a little bit earlier about what might be useful to maybe thinking about having a snack at that time. So for example, in the afternoon, don't wait until you're absolutely ravenous. Really think, okay, it's okay for me to have a snack. Let me do something that's going to help keep me fueled throughout the day. The other thing, that the kind of rationale behind that, is that we see that people who have glucose dips, so blood sugar dips, tend to then feel that increased hunger. So you're then bouncing into your next meal much quicker, and then we see that over the day you actually end up eating a bit more. So we can't always be perfect. There are going to be times when we are absolutely ravenous, and that just happens to be that we can't find anything to eat, but just something to kind of bear in mind for the future. In terms of staying full, really want to be focusing on protein and fibre. So these are two nutrients that we know to help keep you full for longer, and as well as having kind of multiple health benefits themselves. So protein-rich foods are beans, lentils, chickpeas, nuts, salmon, whitefish, lean meats, poultry, and eggs. And protein, not only keeps us feeling full for longer, but it also helps our muscles to stay healthy as well. Fibre, so anything that's kind of plant food, preferably whole grain. So we're talking about fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes as well, seeds, really fantastic, rich source of fibre. So be able to kind of incorporate those two things into our snack choices and also our meals can be a really great way to just make us feel a bit more satiated. And I think that probably brings me to one of the most important points, and I feel like this gets forgotten about or not talked about enough. And this is to remember the satisfaction factor. And sometimes we joke about this as being called vitamin P, so P for pleasure. So it's really about eating foods that you enjoy, because firstly, you're going to feel more satisfied because you're really getting that enjoyment out of it. You're going to get that fantastic endorphin release that we know is associated with consuming things that we really enjoy. and it's going to help you to just feel more satisfied. So we don't have to kind of, stick towards what kind of historically we might have thought with nutrition of, some kind of sad lettuce leaf or a sole carrot stick. Really thinking about how can we make that more delicious. Say you like carrots, maybe have it with some, peanut butter or something to give it a bit of extra oomph. Same with like introducing some crackers, a bit of feta cheese with, a vegetable dip. And I think within that, it's okay to have foods that we crave. There is no such thing as food rules. We very much can incorporate everything in our diet. And I think a really important point to remember is that they did this really fantastic top journal study looking at kind of chronic disease burden across multiple countries and looking at their diet. And what they found was actually the most important thing was having more of the nutritious food rather than kind of focusing too much on the nitty-gritty and the things that we think are possibly less nutritious. So it's very much a kind of positive nutrition approach of let us make sure that, we try and get some good stuff in. If it doesn't happen all the time, that's fine, but as long as we're, taking steps forward or just giving it a go. One thing with snacking, if we are trying to make some nutritious choices, a great way is to be probably what I kind of call proactive rather than reactive. So we have, healthy snacks on hand that are available, that we know that we like, that are delicious. Give us a bit of variety. Don't just have one thing in there. We don't always want the same thing each time. And it can be a really great way to, we're all in a rush, bouncing from meeting to meeting, or maybe you've got kids running around and you just need something to just give you a quick boost. I would say that's probably something where you could have, some fruit and some nut butters going on, even if it's like ready-made stuff like Yakult Light can be a really great way to have on hand. You can keep it in the fridge, it's ready to go, with a handful of nuts to go with it, for example. Yakult Light is enriched with vitamin D and E, which is great for the normal function of the immune system. And you can add it to things like smoothies, it's just a good little tip and trick to have in your fridge. On top of that, it also has at least 20 billion lactobacillus casei shirota, which is a unique strain of bacteria that is scientifically proven to stay and get into your gut and still be alive. Other options could be, making sure that you've got some tasty veggie dips. If you're worried about it going off date, make sure you've got some in the freezer so that you can just, don't always have to have the whole pack there. You can break down the pack into, that maybe you're buying from the supermarket, put it into smaller portions, have it in the freezer so you're not worried about, okay, what's going to go off in 3 days. You can have your bit, take it out of the freezer, defrost it, and then it's ready for the next day. I guess my next tip would be to set yourself up well by starting the day strong. I know that the research behind breakfast can be very confusing, but we do see that, and I am very much an advocate of what you feel, works for you, is, you are really, the guru of your own body. But having, that really strong start to the day, so for example, there's, a fantastic birch and muesli recipe on the Yakult website where you can kind of make it with Yakult Light, or having, I really like porridge. I know we're getting into warm weather, so that's why I'm kind of suggesting the birch and muesli. Oats have a really fantastic, really rich in fibre, and they've got beta-glucans in them, which are great for reducing cholesterol levels. So having something that's going to give you that real oomph, get you going through the day, is just going to set you up right. But that can be up to you. And I think in terms of breakfast is really that first meal that we have during the day. Don't feel any pressure to kind of have it at a set time. It could just be, that you might have it a bit later. Like personally, I like to wait, have it at my desk, which I know is obviously not what we would think is kind of perfect in terms of mindful eating, but it's what works for me, and I know if I have it too early, then I just won't eat it. So we have to make these compromises about what works for ourselves within our lives. And then I do want to talk a bit about emotional eating, very briefly. I wonder maybe anyone has any questions on this as well. But I'm kind of, with emotional eating, I feel like we are very quick to hate on emotional eating. I think we kind of start forgetting or not wanting to talk about the fact that food does bring us a lot of joy and pleasure. And we do get that endorphin release. Same like when we play with kittens or with puppies, or we hear good music. That's totally great normal response. I think when food becomes our only crux for emotional problems, that is when maybe it's something that needs to be teased out and worked on a bit more. So, and occasionally kind of reaching for something for emotional comfort is totally fine and normal healthy behaviour, especially when we are 1 year in from a pandemic. I think we need to perhaps go a little bit easier on ourselves, and that's where I think we can bring in other things that perhaps aren't food related, which might give us that support network that might make us feel good. So sometimes it's good to bring a kind of toolkit of what other things can I have that's available that's going to make me feel great. That might be, okay, I've got my bubble bath, I'm going to make sure I've got some nice essential oils to go in there. There's great kind of calming, kind of early evidence behind lavender oil and also orange oil. So if you don't like lavender, maybe try orange oil. But yeah, that's just a few things. I know that tends to come up fairly often. And then in terms of, I might move on to the Q&A, and just because I see there's a few questions and I really do want to tackle them. And before, if you've got any specific Yakult related ones, what I would say is possibly go to the website. You might have your question answered there if I can't answer it here, which is www.yakult.co.uk. But there's also the Instagram page, which will be tagged when this goes onto IGTV as well below. And they also have a Facebook page. Right, so let me just scroll back and see if I can answer some of these. Okay, so one question. I'm trying to think about immunity at the moment. Is there anything I can eat to help? So immunity is a really hot topic at the moment. Obviously with the pandemic, it's very, very stressful. Our diet does play a role in our immunity. It's not to say that it's the only thing that's playing the role. Things like having good diet quality, like a general healthy eating, healthy eating pattern, can be really good to support our immune system. And part of the thing that we think is involved in this is that we have this community of bacteria in our gut microbiome that interacts with our immune system, and they're intricately linked. And what our food does is then feed these bugs in our gut. There's other things like, for example, I'd say probably some trace elements and also vitamins, specifically vitamin D, which I think is probably why this Yakult Light product is developed, because vitamin D is we usually tend to be deficient in it, especially in the mostly in the winter, because it's a vitamin that is deeply involved in our immune system, but we tend to only really be able to produce it from sunlight, and those sun rays are not strong enough in the winter. And what with us spending more time at home, it can be a bit difficult, especially when wearing sun cream. Sun cream also blocks the production of it. So there's different things like that, and happy to talk more about that if somebody would like me to. Next person, hello. I'd like some ideas for healthy snacks other than fruit, veg sticks. Crisps has always been my cravings, so I have to cut them out entirely, as otherwise I can't stop. So I'd probably say two things there. Okay, so let's talk about healthy snacks other than fruit or veg sticks. So I guess one thing I spoke about earlier was perhaps making a smoothie. There's some great smoothie recipes on the Yakult website, and that's a really quick way that you can just chuck in the Yakult light into your smoothie, kind of add in some vegetables. I would say with smoothies, and to make them feel more satiating, having a kind of fat source, so something like Greek yogurt, tahini, peanut butter, is a really great way to just help you stay a bit fuller for longer, and obviously you're getting a lot of that great fibre from kind of adding some vegetables and some fruits in there. Nuts, seeds and trail mixes, really great way to have some healthy snacks. You know, if you've got some like dark chocolate, you know, those like little tiny chips in there, or some like dried fruit, you know, it's about making this enjoyable. And you know, dried fruit is a really rich source of fibre. You want that little bit of sweetness that's going to help you, you know, pick you up a bit. And just even having in your bag, you can just take a jar of nuts and seeds with you, so that you have that ready if you need that. Other things are such things like, you know, rice cakes with some avocado, you know, having a bit of feta or halloumi, you know, make it a little bit more jazzy, you know, put some raw onion on it with a bit of tomato. That can be something that can be really delicious. If you're really craving crisps, I wouldn't say, if you're cutting things out, sometimes what happens when we cut things out completely is that then we become really fixated on that food. And that can then almost be this like self-fulfilling prophecy of, I can't have that. So when I do have it, I have it and I can't stop. And there's some, you know, really interesting kind of early research around that, that, you know, when we think about, you know, when we can't have something, we end up kind of thinking about it a lot. So there's kind of different ways to tackle that, which I can't really explain in full here. But, you know, perhaps maybe look into, you know, intuitive eating can be quite helpful with that. And then the other thing is, you know, possibly, you know, if you really enjoy crisps and you like that kind of saltiness, then having something like perhaps kind of moving to like vegetable crisps for a bit, or having something that's going to give you that kind of crunch and that saltiness in some other way, because that can be, you know, quite a lot of the time that's quite like stimulating for us. Other things we could have are things like making kind of those little kind of date and nut balls or protein balls, you know, meat snacks, kind of like jerky or things like that as well. Yeah, so hopefully that gives you some idea. Okay, is it bad to snack on the same thing every day? I would say there's no such thing as bad. We just, you know, try our best having something that can be the same snack if that's something that you like. Ideally, you know, if we're in the grand scheme of things, having some kind of diversity and trying new things. And if we go back to, for example, earlier in the talk when I said about how, you know, it's the people were choosing healthier options when they're trying new things. And I think, especially with this pandemic, where we're, you know, everything is quite monotonous, and we've just got this very kind of same routine, same things. Something like changing things up can actually be a way of just bringing some joy and excitement, and also a great way to try something new that's perhaps going to have a different nutrition profile. Okay. What do I think of protein shakes for breakfast? I'm not a sports dietitian, so I don't know whether there's maybe some sports purpose behind that question. For breakfast, I think it is so dependent on you. I mean, if it's like, am I having a protein shake rather than not having anything at all? I probably would say, having a protein shake, but maybe trying to have, some fruits and vegetables in there. Is it just a shake on its own, or is it, can we make it into a smoothie? Can we bring some other different items in there that will just make it a bit more interesting, taste-wise, as also giving you greater diversity. So next question, is it bad to snack on fruit throughout the day? Not at all. Fruit is a great source of nutrients. They're delicious. I would just perhaps balance it with maybe some nuts or some nut butter, or a bit of cheese or something, just to have that bit of variation going on. And probably kind of, maybe it depends on how much fruit you're having, but you could bring in some vegetables as well to change it up, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. Fruit is really nutritious and fantastic for you. Okay, great, thank you. And there's some good, happy with those tips. Okay, well, that's all the questions. Thanks for joining. And yeah, if you need any more information on, Yakult and Yakult Light, for example, please do head to their website or their Instagram and their Facebook page. But great to be here. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.